Well, hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's Learning Series event where we are covering mastering virtual career fairs and employer engagement. Here's Make America started these types of workshops to assist the broader military community with tips and tricks to help land that next career. So whether you're currently in the process of separating out of the service or maybe you're already out, transitioning from the military is a process. Or if you're a military spouse who's looking for your next career, this event is also beneficial to better understand how to continue to make yourself competitive each change of station. So, and with the way things are nowadays, understanding how to do all of that in a virtual environment is crucial. So, welcome again. Let me also introduce myself. My name is Katie Bowerman. I'm a senior manager with the Manufacturing Institute, and I oversee the virtual Heroes Make America Military Skill Bridge Training Program, which we'll talk about in just a minute, in addition to a variety of other virtual events like this workshop series, our virtual career fairs, as well as our Heroes Connect events that we put on for our transitioning military veterans and spouses. So our whole community is invited to these events. So let me also take a minute to have my co-presenter introduce herself before we dive into the presentation for today. So Rachel, all you.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Rachel Wolford. I am Director of Program Operations for Heroes Make America, currently located at Fort Riley, Kansas, but I do oversee all of our DoD skill bridge programs while also focusing on process and operational improvements. So I look forward to co-leading today's session alongside Katie.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Rachel. All right, so let's go over some general participation guidelines as we go through this event or before we kick off this event. So first off, it is being recorded and we send it out as part of a recap email. So please be sure you do stay muted throughout the presentation to minimize any background noise. Unless you have a question or are participating in the discussion, we love when folks raise their hand and ask questions or throw it in the chat. So still be an active participant. Throw your questions in the chat box. We will circle back to those and talk through them at the end. So really, this event is for you. It's your opportunity to ask questions as you're preparing to be successful in your job search. So let's go ahead and move forward. Let's talk through before we go in and talk about it, let's talk through the highlights of Heroes Make America. So if you don't know who we are, our mission is to build connections between the military community and the manufacturing industry. You can see here the four main areas that our program focuses on. First off, where it all started is our signature DoD Skill Bridge program, our training program. So we do have 8 different training programs across the country, 5 in person and 3 virtual, in which we are training transitioning active duty service members and veterans in different skills that are needed by our industry. So I'll go over those in just a second. Secondly, we do have our almost weekly Heroes Connect military to manufacturing virtual employer events where we bring in various companies, right, for our military community to learn about, who these companies are out there in our industry, who's hiring, and just how aligned most of our service members' skills and experiences are within the manufacturing industry. So to learn more about these employers, which many of them we've never heard of, right, because they may not be a brand name. So to learn more about our industry. Third, last year we did kick off this new veteran learning series, which are open events, and the topics are designed to help prepare individuals as they're searching for their next career. So events just like today. And then lastly, we kicked off last year our quarterly manufacturing specific virtual career fairs. And our next one is this Friday, November 1st. Additionally, we do have an in-person career fair that is coming up as well. So if you happen to be located in the Fort Stewart, Georgia area, there is an in-person career fair on November 7th. We are busy. So we're going to drop in a few links in the chat for you to be able to connect with us and see all about what Heroes Make America has planned. So while you're, looking that over, I do want to kind of briefly highlight if you're not familiar with Heroes, what do we do? So we are training for transitioning service members, veterans, reservists, guardsmen, and military spouses. We provide a variety of certification trainings, equipping our students with rewarding careers in the manufacturing and supply chain industry. You can see here our program managers, the 3 training pathways that we offer, which are manufacturing operations, industrial systems, as well as logistics. I have listed our upcoming class dates. So if you are interested, if you're transitioning out sometime in 2025, we'll kick off 2025 cohorts in January. And then lastly, tell your battle buddies. Don't forget about them too. If you find that, maybe one of our trainings could be a great fit for one of your battle buddies, share the information. We'd love to have them. All right. This workshop mainly is in preparation for, like I said, we have an upcoming manufacturing industry focused virtual career fair this Friday, November 1st from 11 to 2 Eastern. I do want to remind you, adjust your time zone accordingly. So make sure you log on 11 Eastern and whatever that means for you in your time zone. Really, but this information, this presentation is geared towards virtual career fairs in general. The information can be used for in-person, virtual, different virtual employer engagement opportunities. It can really be used across different events. I do want to point out the registration is required for probably all virtual career fairs. So if you haven't registered, or if you find a virtual career fair, be sure you register. That's how you get the most updated information, the registration or the meeting link, and all the details probably on the employers that are going to be at that engagement. Many of the in-person ones do require it as well to be able to maximize the information that you're given in preparation for that career fair. So just don't forget, when you do see one, make sure you register. And then if there's the opportunity to register or to upload your resume as part of that registration, I highly, highly recommend you do that and include it as a PDF. So what happens if you registered for this upcoming career fair? You're like, yep, I'm on top of it. I registered for the November 1st career fair. I forgot to put my resume as part of my registration. Don't stress. And most registrations, you can go back and edit. So if you did not upload your resume, you should have gotten an email after you registered for the event, and that's where you received the Zoom meeting link. So particularly for hours on Friday, this is what the email looked like on the left. And then on the very bottom, there is a link to modify your registration. So all you do, you go back into your registration, and then you upload your resume as a PDF. So if you forgot to upload it, or let's say you've been diligently working on it for the last couple weeks and you're like, oh, I need to update it to my most recent one, go back and edit it. The employers do get your guys' resumes, so you want to make sure that it is part of your registration so that it is going over to the employers for them to see your experience. All right, so now that we have covered some of the basics, let's move on to our main topic for today. And for this one, I'm actually going to go on and pass it over to Rachel, where she will talk us through the first portion of preparing for virtual career fairs. So Rachel, floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Katie. So what we're going to cover today, I just want to remind you that this is relevant and important no matter what event you're attending as it relates to a career fair. So whether it's virtual or in person, there's really kind of three key areas that you want to focus on and take into consideration as you prepare for an event. You can see those right here on the screen in front of you. What you need to do before the event, during the event, and then after the event. Katie, you can go ahead. There you go. Thank you, dear. So let's talk a little bit about what we have to do before the event, right? Um, we're really here today to help you supercharge your success at the Heroes Make America Virtual Career Fair, right? We're going to dive into the crucial steps that you need to take to make sure that you stand out. We're talking about all that preparation, right? The gearing up, the fine tuning of your documents, uncovering the secrets of pre-event research. It's time to up your game and get ready to navigate our virtual career fair opportunities like a pro. But like I said, these can be used for any virtual career fairs as well. So this morning, you should have received an email like the one pictured above. Okay, that email includes important information. So there's an attachment there that has critical pieces of information about the employers that are currently scheduled for the event. If you did not receive this email or you do not see it, please make sure to check your spam or junk email folders. I will also here in just a moment, I'll drop a copy of that attachment into the chat just in case you didn't get that. And then now that you know what to look for, let's dive in how to use that information, and we'll flip to the next slide to do that. So as you can see on this slide here, um, in that attachment that we sent you, we break out and kind of give you some key pieces of information, right? So we are going to provide you the company name, right? We're going to provide you a key point of contact for each organization so that after the event, you can make sure to follow up with those individuals. We do recommend visiting each company's career page, even if they indicate, their key locations for employment are Houston, Texas, as an example on here. I would still encourage you to go into that company's career page and really dive through and see what openings and opportunities they have available. While Houston might be the big area they're targeting, they could have opportunities all across the US. And you're not going to see that if you just hyper focus on what you see here. So click into that career page, go in and research and take a look at a wide variety of the jobs that you see available. Okay. You'll see here a list of, hot jobs, hot opportunities that they have available. But when you go into their actual career page, don't be afraid to click into all those opportunities. Um, Everybody calls jobs different things, right? And you don't necessarily realize that that might be a job that you're interested in if you don't click into the position and actually read the description, right? What we're really telling you is to keep your options open. You never know what unique opportunity may present itself to you unless you're willing to explore your options. So, just as a kind of a quick example, I had a student that came through the program here at Fort Riley what feels like forever ago, back in 2018. Very strong background in logistics and supply coming out of the U.S. Army. The position that he ended up accepting with a manufacturer was called a production planner. Never would have thought to have looked at that job title until he did his research, until he talked to the employer. And what he actually does is he's responsible for ordering the materials that are used for packaging candy at one of the manufacturing facilities that we work with. But once again, had he not went in and read the job description and taken the time to just explore those options, he wouldn't have known what was there and available. So let's flip over to the next slide here and we'll take a look at what these pages may look like. So the About section. So an employer's About section is kind of like a treasure trove of insights waiting to be discovered. It's where you can uncover the company's history, its mission, values, and the unique vibe that sets it apart from the rest. So kind of think of it, as silly as it sounds, as a window into their soul, right? So this is kind of where they tell their story, what they're passionate about, what their vision is for the future. So really dive in and soak up those details because these can be great conversation starters as you engage and network with these employers. It also shows that you've taken the time to do that research, right? And you may read in an about section, you may find a little, carrot of information that really rings and hits true with you, right? Maybe they are working with a certain demographic. Maybe they're building something that you're really into and you didn't realize it. And now it kind of gives you some extra leverage as you have those conversations. The next section is going to be their career page. So, an employer's career section is kind of their home of opportunity. So, it's stepping into a world of endless possibilities where you can explore job openings. Okay, so really deep diving into this section to uncover not just job listings, but insights into company culture, their commitment to employee development, the exciting projects that you could be a part of. It's really your chance to find the perfect match between your skills and passion and a company that values and nurtures them. Remember, as you seek employment after the military, or maybe you're changing positions, or you're a military spouse who's going to be relocating to a new area and you're looking for your next career opportunity, interviews are always meant to be a two-way street, right? You want to make sure that they're the right fit for you just as much as you're the right fit for them. Okay. And reading in these jobs descriptions, you can find the different terminology and titles and things like that that an employer is using. So it's kind of that in, right? And we want to research the jobs because when we go into our breakout rooms, when you're in these career fairs, whether they're in person or virtual, it's being able to walk up and say, hey, I spent some time on your career page and I'm really interested in these roles. Or I spent some time on your career page and I didn't necessarily find a position that I thought I was a right fit for, but I wanted to talk to you and I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself, what I do, what my background is, what I'm passionate about. Um, and then can you share with me if you think there's a position that I might be the right fit for? And then the next page.
Rachel, can I add something real
Yeah,
quick? Um,
absolutely.
yeah, on that, I just want you guys to remember how Rachel said, click into everything. I would even not like, so instead of filtering, so many of us go in and in the key job, in the keyword, they put in logistics or operator or whatever it is. Don't even put in a keyword. Just look at their whole career page and click into all of them. Um, or else you'll start to limit yourself in what you see. So just as a reminder, just look at all of them without filters at all. And then a technical speaking on career page. So the examples here on the screen, and when you go on websites, you guys have probably already done this, but on the top is where the career button usually is, but sometimes you can't find it. And I always like to share this just because I want us to even the playing field, right? Maybe we don't know where it is. Go all the way to the bottom of the page. Sometimes it's hyperlinked at the very bottom of a homepage at a on a company's website, and it's not up top because maybe up top is all about their products and for their customers to purchase from their site, not necessarily the career pages. So just as a reminder, if you can't find it, scroll all the way to the bottom. It's something silly, but if you don't know where to look for or where where it is, we might not be able to find it. So Rachel just wanted to add those little tidbits before we move forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Katie. Awesome. So you've learned how to start researching our participating companies, right? So while you're doing this, you're going to want to craft your information sheet, right? So this is a document that you're going to be able to easily access while you're on the event. So as you can see here, the sheet's going to contain critical information that you can share with an employer and will be important to use during the breakout room sessions. It will allow you to have your information all in one place where you can copy and paste it into the chat or email as necessary. I will tell you, even for us as an example, my team can tell you that's on helping support us today. We have a cheat sheet of information. So that stuff that you see dropping into the chat, we're not going out and having to pull that, when we need it. We have it in this centralized document that we're dropping into the chat to make it very easy for ourselves. So let's talk about some of those key pieces of information that should be on your cheat sheet, your information sheet. So first and foremost should be your contact information, your name, your professional email, right? I don't know about everybody else, but I've got an email that's about 15 years old. It's like kucraze@gmail.com. If anybody of you are sports fans, I'm a huge KU Jayhawks fan, so that's why that one was crafted in the way it was. Not the most professional, so usually something that has your name is a great way to go. And then your LinkedIn URL, especially if you feel like it's in a good place. I would refrain from sharing your phone number. Please remember that this is a public facing event. So email and LinkedIn should be sufficient for things that you're sharing in the chat. Now, if you're going to email them directly, you can definitely share your phone number, but I would refrain from putting it in an open chat just because, spammers do get in sometimes and we don't want to get all those text messages and phone calls. Now, putting that email out there does mean that you need to make sure that you're checking your email on a routine basis. As an active job seeker, we recommend checking your email at least once every 24 hours during the business week. So think Monday through Friday. And another recommendation, if a company emails you, even if you're not necessarily interested in that organization, if they're offering you the opportunity to have a conversation, do it, right? It's practice talking about yourself, right? And you never know what might come out of that conversation. You might think they wanted you for one job, then you have a conversation with them and they consider you for something completely different. If you do decide that you do not want to engage with that organization, it's still incredibly professional just to send them a note, letting them know, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. At this time, I'm not interested in those positions or those locations, but I'll keep your company in mind in the future. The next item is going to be your 30-second elevator pitch. So we're going to drop a resource in the chat for you that you can utilize to help develop your elevator pitch. This is obviously about a 30-second introduction where you tell an employer who you are, what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and who you do it for. I keep in mind your audience, right? So you're going to be talking with employers. So tell them, what you're passionate about. What are you really good at? What do you want to do as you transition out of the military or as you transition into another role or as a military spouse? What are you passionate about? What really fuels your fire? What energizes you? Um, Next, you need to make a list by company of any current roles that you may be interested in. You might also consider listing the types of roles you might be interested in so that you can ask about those positions in those breakout sessions because they may have those coming available within their organization. Workforce needs are ongoing and new jobs are added every day. Ensure that you have questions for the employers. right? This is something that we talk about with interviewing. You should always have questions when you go into an interview. That's what a career fair is, right? Networking is a very casual interview. So you need to make sure that you have those questions developed because you want to network and engage with employers, right? Those two-way conversations where you're ensuring that they're the right company for you. So once again, we'll drop another great resource in the chat that you can utilize to identify key questions of importance to you, right? Do you want to know about the team that you're going to be working with? Do you want to know what's going to be expected of an employer or an employee for a certain role in the first 30, 60, 90 days? Right? What does their hiring process look like? You know, the timeline, all great questions to ask in those breakout rooms. And then finally, you can use the same document to capture key contact information from the employers and their recruiters that are in the breakout room chat. So a lot of the employers will drop links, they'll drop emails, LinkedIn, they may have like a Calendly where you can schedule time to meet with them. Grab all of that information and make sure you put it in your document. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So here are some additional best practices to ensure a successful virtual career fair for yourself. Some of them are going to seem a little silly, but I promise you they're critically important. So we recommend using a computer for easier access to chat and breakout rooms. But if you have to use your phone, um, always make sure you've updated your Zoom app, or you won't be able to see the breakout rooms. Or you may go to try and get into the event and it's trying to download updates and it just slows the whole process down for you. And you might miss some really great speakers early on in the session. We do encourage the use of virtual backgrounds to minimize distractions. As you can see, I have one set up here. I am at home, down in my home office area, but I use a virtual background just because it's very clean. Make sure to rename yourself. So that's going to be really important. There's going to be 3 dots on your screen where you can go in and rename yourself. It's really important, especially if you do join from a phone, because it will probably name you iPhone. That's what mine always does. And you definitely, when you go into a breakout room, do not want to be called by iPhone if you choose to ask a question. So best practice is first name and last name when you rename yourself. Be in a set physical location for 100% attention. We do not recommend driving during the event. If for some reason you absolutely are, keep your camera off and just listen in until you're in a safe location. But if you're going to be engaging with an employer, you want to be able to give them your full attention, right? Just like you would at an in-person career fair, right? You're going to be talking face to face with them. It's a sign of respect. Same thing for these virtual events. And dress for success. We know this is virtual, but treat it the same as an in-person career fair. Look the part. If you look good, you feel good. And first impressions matter even on a virtual career fair. Have a PDF resume readily available to drop in the chat. The reason we recommend a PDF versus just like a Microsoft Word document is PDF locks the format of your document. Sometimes if you drop a Word document in there, it could skew your bullets and things like that. So to keep your resume looking good, use a PDF. We talked about this a few moments ago, but if necessary, create a separate email for job searching and be sure to update your resume with it. If you're like me, like I said, the Gmail you created 15 years ago also gets about 100 spam emails a day, and you could very easily miss an important email from a potential employer, and we don't want that to happen. And then making sure that you've got your LinkedIn URL listed as well. And with that, I'm going to flip it over to Katie.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. And just another tidbit on the email. So I think that's something I always recommend as well, is creating that separate professional email address. But something to that I often have folks forget to do is when you update that email address, make sure it's correct on your resume. Go back, update it on your resume before you go and then modify your registration, right? So update your resume with that new email address, re-upload it as part of your registration, and then utilize that new email address as part of the chat in your document for the event. And then also make sure you connect that email address to your phone so that you are actively using it. So little things like that that stump us, and we forget, and then we're trying to do the right thing, and then we forget to do those basics. So all great things that you should be doing before the event. That's really where all the legwork happens. When Rachel was talking about dressing for success, another thing I would encourage you, if you're one of our Heroes Make America students, wear your polo shirt that brands you as one of our students. You're more than welcome, of course, to wear professional dress, but that polo shirt also is great because the employers know the Heroes Make America brand. So that is also encouraged if you have it. All right. So now, like I said, that you've done that legwork to prepare for an upcoming career fair or an employer event, because really this is great for all of the events. There are some items to talk through when it comes to being successful at the event itself. So during the event, let's talk through event schedules and technology aspects like navigating breakout rooms. And then I'll go into some best practices like Rachel did when it comes to being there during the event and attending those virtual and in-person employer events, just in general. Okay, so let's move forward for the event on Friday. So, right, our manufacturing career fair this Friday. Like I said, it's scheduled from 11 to 2 Eastern. However, there's structure to it. So when you see different virtual career fairs happening with different companies and different platforms, they usually have a 3-hour time block, a 2-hour time block, and you don't know necessarily whether am I supposed to be there the whole time, and do I come and go as I please, whatever it might be. For our career fair on Friday specifically, we have structure to ours, especially in that first portion of the event. The first half hour or so is dedicated to learning more about the premier employers at the event. So there's a group of employers who will be doing 5-minute presentations for you to get a sneak peek into their company, what do they do, their locations, the products they make, and really start to show you some of those things that you may have started to see on their websites as part of your research. So this helps you learn more those big picture details on those companies before breaking into those or jumping into those breakout rooms to learn more specifically about the companies. So majority of the event, there will be those breakout sessions where you'll go into each employer's room and actually talk with them, ask those questions, listen more about what the company offers or about them or whatever it might be. We always encourage you to stay for the full amount of time and go into every breakout room. Even if you see in your research, there's nothing at that company that's for me, I will never go to that location, still go into that company's breakout room and ask those questions. Like Rachel mentioned, this is practice. When other times, these are your opportunities to talk with employers. Give your 30-second elevator pitch. The more and more you say it, the more comfortable you're going to become with those words. So we always encourage everyone to go into every breakout room, spend a little time in there, talk with them. Another thing that we recommend is, when you do see the breakout rooms, and I'll show you what they look like in a list version when you go to actually join them, you can see how many people are in certain rooms. And so we like to tell folks, go to the room where no one else is and get some individualized attention to ask those questions, and really engage more fully with the employers. Be that person who's not going to just sit there and listen to the presentation, but you're going to actively engage instead. There's also benefits to going to the big group and hearing the presentation. So I'd mix it up, and you can always go back to employers later if they've got less traffic in their room. So that is our event this Friday and the structure of it. I do like to go over, if you have an event like ours that is on Zoom that utilizes breakout rooms. If you've never used breakout rooms before, it can be a little just daunting, right? We don't know necessarily how to do it. So I want to go over the technology to even the playing field so that you can easily do this. And this isn't, something that is a hiccup on Friday. So really, let me see. Okay, I'm going to open breakout rooms. These are just samples. Don't go over to the breakout room right now. I just want you to be able to see the buttons on your control panel. So if you look at your navigation bar, there should be either 4 squares and it says breakout room, or you see a circle that says more. You click on that and the breakout rooms are listed under there. So if you can just look on your computer now, see where it is so that you know where you're going on Friday, click the breakout rooms, what happens, you can see on the bottom right of the screen, the list will come up. Right now, it just says, test room 1, test room 2. That's it, right? It's just some options for you right now. Don't actually go over there, but that's for options for you to be able to see what it would look like on Friday. We're going to have all of our companies listed, so all of them will have their own breakout room, and you can easily go through and join them. So when you have that list up, you can see on the right there's a blue join button. Surprise, surprise, that's how you join the room. Very easy. You click on it, it takes you over to that room, and that's when you get moved on over, and the employers will be waiting for you over in their breakout rooms. That's it. The hardest part about breakout rooms on Zoom is locating that initial breakout room button. That's the hardest part. I will say if you're on your phone, which we recommend be on a computer, it is just so much easier to navigate everything and type in the chat and see the chat. It's better to be on a computer. But if you have to be on your phone, it's a little different. Usually you have to click the screen, and on the top left, it'll hover. There'll be an icon that shows up for breakout rooms. It's possible to do it on a phone. It's just not as user friendly. Okay. And then when you're in the breakout rooms, ready to go to the next one, it's very simple. Leave breakout rooms, 2 options pop up. You either leave the breakout room and go back to the main lobby, or select another breakout room. Or if you hit leave meeting, you fall out of Zoom completely. Not the end of the world. You just rejoin the meeting, and we will let you back into the meeting. Okay, so that's instruction on how to use breakout rooms in the Zoom platform, just so then you're not having to worry about that on Friday. All right, other things when it comes to best practices. Okay, so we've done our research. We've looked at all the websites. We've looked at job titles. We're ready to rock and roll. We're dressed for success. Now it's the day of the event. So what do we do, and how do we be successful? Seems silly, but log in early. Log in 5-10 minutes early. I recommend putting an alarm on your phone, whatever it is to let you know, like, it's time to log in. Get on your computer, get in there, and what happens, you'll be placed into a wait room, which is no big deal. You'll just be hanging out until the event is opened, and then you'll come in. But it's good to log in early, because let's say there was an update on the app or whatever it might be. Log in early to be able to knock out some of that stuff. You can download the Zoom app for your computer as well, so that you're not in the web version, and that it's also a more user-friendly way to utilize Zoom, probably what you're doing right now on our event. I would also recommend, like Rachel said, change your display name. You can do that ahead of time. If you go on your account settings on the web version of Zoom, you can go through your account and actually change your display name. So I highly recommend that, so you don't pop up as iPhone. You just pop up as your first and last name. I recommend everyone do that ahead of time. Okay. But logging in early is always great, so that you're not missing that first portion when the employers are coming up, or we're doing some introductions in the beginning. Um, Other things just to be mindful of, you usually are muted automatically as soon as you come into the meeting. Stay muted. I highly encourage you, for the big portion when we're all in the lobby and we're all listening to the presentation, stay muted. But when you get into those breakout rooms, be sure to come on, introduce yourself. That is when you unmute, is when you're in the breakout rooms talking with the employers. Okay, so log in early, make sure you're muted. Unmute yourself when you're ready to talk with your employers in the breakout rooms. But something to be just mindful of: facial expressions, body language. Yeah, we're on a virtual event, but still being mindful of these things. You don't want the furrowed brows, makes you look like, oh, I don't know, is that guy approachable or not? These are civilians. We're allowed to smile, we're allowed to have personalities. We don't have to maybe be as serious as we had to be in the military. So bring your personality, be aware of your facial expressions, and then also importantly, be aware of your camera angle and where things are. If it's up towards the ceiling, if it's up your nose, if it's over to the side, just be mindful of your camera and where you are and your background. On that same note, you can utilize a virtual background if you need to, right? If you don't want them to see what's in the background, you can either blur it. We have our Heroes Make America backgrounds that we use. You can go, it's very simple. If you go into your Zoom settings, you can always set a virtual one if you would like to do that for the event as well. And then another thing, just to remind you, be active, right? This event is for you, right? The event is beneficial to you, the presenters, the participants, the employers. This is a learning experience for everyone, for you to learn about employers, for the employers to learn about you, for you to learn about the industry in general. Even if a company may not be the right fit for you, you can still ask them questions about, what are titles of positions that you would think fit my background. Rachel mentioned that earlier, right? Tell them a little bit about you, and they can tell you, have you thought about this type of position before? That's part of the networking event, even if you're not going to apply to that employer because of one reason or another. Okay, so be that active participant. Listen to questions, right? So if you're in the breakout room, listen to people's questions, look at the chat, read their questions in the chat, put questions in yourself, and have that dialogue. But then, of course, more than anything, being respectful of the presenter and of your job seekers. Try not to interrupt, when the presenter is, trying to answer a question or going over their information. That's where the chat box really is the main thing. And then maybe you can come on once they have a break in their presentation or the questions that they're answering. And then lastly, so you've done all these things, you're being active, you're taking the notes, you're copying and pasting all the great information into your document that you created pre-event. And that's your notes, right, that you can go back to and review after the event. You're doing all of this. You've learned great things. The event has come to an end. It's 2 o'clock on Friday. We always encourage you to also provide feedback. Our program, especially, we take job seeker feedback to heart and have changed this event and modified this event over the last 2 years to meet our job seekers' needs. And so for our event specifically, when you exit the Zoom meeting on Friday, a survey will pop up in your web browser, quick couple question survey. We would love and appreciate if you provided us feedback on your way out on Friday. So that's all I have for best practices when it comes to the event itself. Rachel, do you have any last tidbits on things that they should be doing during the event to be successful?
I was just going to chime in as a reminder, the entire Heroes team will be on the event to support. So if you're having issues getting in and out of breakout rooms, we always have somebody in the main lobby. So you can always let somebody in there know, hey, I'm struggling to get this breakout room, and we can help put you in to breakout rooms as well. We're also in there if you have questions. Right? So pick our brains while we're in there. It's kind of nice to have some conversation going during that time when we're in the breakout rooms. So just know that the entire Heroes team will be there to support you as well.
Yes, definitely. And then for yeah, we're there for you for whatever you need. And then I believe Lauren dropped in all of our LinkedIn URLs in the beginning of the chat for this presentation as well. So connect with any of our program managers ahead of time, connect with us on LinkedIn. You can always ask questions before or after the event as well. And then if you didn't see in the chat, Rachel had dropped in the employer detail spreadsheet, so the one that was emailed out today. If you can't find that email, or maybe you hadn't registered yet, you realized, oops, I haven't registered, so I wouldn't have gotten that email today because it's only for the people who registered. The document is in the chat right now, and then we will try our best to email it out before the event on Friday. If not, we will consistently drop it in the chat on Friday as well. I do have a question in the chat that let's go ahead and address because it's during the event. Someone asked, during the breakout session, does everyone hear you, or is it a one-on-one conversation with the employer? Rachel, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so this is a group session. So you're not one-on-one with an employer. Like I said, think of it, it's very much built and set up like an in-person career fair. So you're at the table with potentially folks around you. So it's going to be important to be mindful about some of the things you say because it is not a direct one-on-one conversation. But really, what this is meant to be, and the reason it's a career fair versus a hiring event, is we're wanting to make the connection, right? So we want you to ask those questions of those employers. We want you to engage, but the goal is to capture that information to build a relationship so that after the event, you have that personalized one-on-one conversation as you work towards career placement with that organization.
And oftentimes, these employers have some kind of way, well, not oftentimes, they all have a way for
Yes.
you to contact them after the event. We have instructed all of our employers, make sure you have a point of contact. Who is the person that our job seekers can reach out to if they have questions, want to talk individually, have these conversations. They will provide you that point of contact. Some of the companies will also have some type of booking link. So some will choose to just put time on my calendar. Here's the link to put time on my calendar. If they provide you that option, I highly recommend put time on their calendar. That is time they are volunteering to talk with you at whatever you want to talk about, right? The positions, the company, just learning more about their segment of the industry, whatever it is. So if it's offered, we always encourage you to take them up on that opportunity and go ahead and put time on their calendar for that afternoon, for the next week, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and I'll add just as another caveat, the folks that are attending these career fairs, they recognize the value of the military community. So these are the folks that you really want to talk to, right? These are the ones that you can have those really candid conversations with. A lot of the times, folks that attend these are also military affiliated in some form or fashion. So you can have those conversations of, this is what I did, and they're going to understand what you're bringing to the table. So these, I'm going to reiterate it, these are the people that you want to connect with.
I agree, definitely. And we do have another question in the chat regarding, do we need a targeted resume for each company for Friday? It is in my opinion that you don't need a targeted resume for every company that is participating on Friday, at least not for the event itself. What I would recommend, of course, you're gonna need a targeted resume. If you actually go in and apply to that position, of course, you need to target it to that job posting if you're gonna apply. But for Friday, what I would recommend is maybe having a version of your resume according to the type of position that you're looking for. So if you're more a logistician, your supplies, your resume is more focused on logistics type of experience. If you're in maintenance, of course, you're going to have a lot of those maintenance type bullets. If you have two different types of positions generally that you're targeting, you've got your logistics resume, you've got your maintenance resume. And those two versions maybe you have available to provide to the employers in the chat if they ask for it, right? So hopefully that answers your question, Brittany. But so not necessarily for every company, but for maybe the type of position. Rachel, anything you'd add or do you agree?
Nope, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think the companies here also expect that the resumes that they're going to get are a little bit more generalized and are not going to align with a specific role or a specific company. So they're going to be prepared for that as well.
All right, those were all our questions for now. Love the participation. If you have questions throughout this last portion, drop them in. We'll come back to them. So Rachel, on to you for the after event.
Perfect. So what do you do after the event is just as important as everything that you did before and during. You've had the opportunity to engage with the employers and you've captured their key contact information. So, what do we do next, right? Well, luckily for you, we're going to cover that in the next series of slides. So on this next slide here, you can see things don't stop when you click leave at the end of a virtual career fair. We've created this really cool flow chart to show you kind of how this is a continuous cycle, right? This big circle, and really how to capitalize on the interactions that you had during the event, okay? So we're going to continue to research employers after the event, right? We discussed early on kind of doing that pre-event research, but companies are constantly updating their career opportunities. So we want to circle back through and see if anything has been changed or updated, or maybe during the event, the employer directed you to a specific position, right, that they wanted you to go take a look at. Or maybe you didn't research an employer in advance. Maybe you were like, based on that spreadsheet, it doesn't sound like something I'm interested in, or they didn't list a location I'm interested in, but you talked to them in the breakout room and now you're going to go research them. Okay. Provide any deliverables that an employer requested, such as emailing your resume, and do this in a timely manner, right? If the career fair is on Friday, get that information to them either after the event or early on next week, right? You want to stay top of mind for these employers, and you do that by getting things to them in a timely manner. Connect with the employers on LinkedIn and build your network, right? I dropped a note in the chat earlier where I said the recruiting world is big, but it's also really small. So even if you're not gonna, explore career opportunities with that company, connect with their team on LinkedIn, because as they engage with you, other folks in their network or are going to see that engagement, and it may result in a future connection with an employer that you are interested in. And of course, even if that company or recruiter didn't have exactly what you were looking for, we want to continue to create those pathways in which they can also continue to engage you. Um, let's say they did drop a Calendly or booking link in the chat. Schedule a follow-up call and an informational interview to learn more about the organization or careers that might be a right fit for you. I said it, Katie said it, but I want to say it again. I think a lot of the times people get so hyper focused on, I don't see a job that aligns with what I'm looking for. That's okay. It's such great practice to go into an organization, to have a call with an organization where you tell them about who you are, what you do, right? What we talked about being passionate about, what areas you excel in, and letting them tell you what types of positions you should be looking for. And like I said, a lot of these folks are going to have military affiliation, or they're going to be very familiar with working with the military community. And they may say, hey, you're an 11 Bravo, right? You're an infantry guy, but you have all these other skill sets that we're looking for. You should be exploring these career opportunities. Okay, so make sure to schedule those follow-up calls. Send a post-event email to share about career opportunities that you're interested in. We'll have a sample of that we'll show and share with you in just a moment. But even just sending a note and saying thank you for your time, right? Thank you for the opportunity to connect and engage. I look forward to staying in contact as you know, things change in the future. And then apply, right? Landing that next career is the goal, right? But we've got to go out and we've got to apply for those positions. So networking and connecting with employers is critically important, but a lot of organizations, there's federal laws around, kind of that hiring process. You've got to submit those applications. And then connecting with our team, right? So if you apply with one of the employers, let us know. We'll drop our Heroes inbox email here in the chat here, but email us at heroes@nam.org. And the reason for that is we can help engage those employers on your behalf as well. So we want to tell them, hey, you know, Wesley applied for this position at this location as a result of the career fair. We want to create some visibility around his application, right? So we're happy to help with that. And then sharing your success stories. We would love to hear about how the event went and if you move forward with one of the employers, right? Like Katie said, getting that feedback is crucial for us because these events are meant to support you, right? They're only successful if you feel like they're successful. And so we want to get that feedback from you. And then prepare for the next event by doing an AAR, right? What worked well? What didn't? What could you do better next time? That's one of the nice things about the group setting as well. I know a lot of people they're really looking for kind of a one-on-one interaction, but when you get into these group settings, you can hear from folks within the community, right? How are they talking? What questions are they asking? So it may give you ideas on what you do want to do next time, and then maybe even things that you don't want to do next time, right? Maybe you're going to hear how they're using a lot of acronyms and that they're maybe struggling to make the transition from the military. And it can kind of give you some internal insight of, oh, I want to make sure I don't do these things. Or maybe they asked a really great question. And you're like, man, that's one I've got to make sure I ask going forward. So this is a constant cycle, right? And we're going to use this whether it's in person or virtual career fairs, whether it's with Heroes Make America or another organization. Make sure that you're doing all of these things after the event. Okay. And then we talked about that. Oh, Katie, did you have something to add? I saw you pop on.
Yeah. I was just going to add on the connecting on LinkedIn, just as a
Yes.
reminder, y'all. When you go on a lot of these employers' pages, there you might just see the option to follow. So if they've got a lot of connections, you might see the option just to follow. This is a reminder. make sure you connect with them. Send a connection request with a note. So the note is going to be critical as well. And identify yourself as someone who participated in the November 1st virtual career fair. So give them some context. I was a job seeker at the November first career fair. We talked about this. I'm transitioning military, whatever you can fit in the little blurb on the connection request. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Don't just follow, connect and connect with a note. So just LinkedIn reminder as you're going into Friday. That's it.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, those connection notes are so important and referencing how. So great reminder, Katie. And then this is, I referenced on the last page that we had a great example of kind of that post-event email. And this is really an exceptional example of how one of our Heroes Make America students reached out to the employers after one of our last virtual career fairs. So some key items I want to point out. She led off by introducing herself and referencing how she met them. So just like Katie just talked about doing so when you connect with them on LinkedIn, make sure to do that in your email as well, right? We are all participating in multiple events. We're engaging with the military community as often as we can. And so we just want to make sure we give them that frame of reference that they can refer back to as they look to kind of refine that information. Um, and this is a great way to validate your email and ensure you don't come across as spam, right? She have identified that she'd been researching the company and had came across positions with their organization that she was interested in and where they were located, right? So she specifically says, I'm reaching out because, these are the positions I'm interested in. She provided links to those positions. So a lot of the time a company will have multiple positions open with the same job title. So either referencing the position or referencing the job ID makes it really easy for them to identify those positions. She made an ask, right? So she said, "May I get some guidance from you before I apply?" And this shows follow through and intent. She wasn't just reaching out and saying, "Hey, I applied. Can you help me get the job?" She was showing genuine interest and a desire to be considered, right? And I think what's really important is she said, I'm really interested in this position and I want to make sure that what I'm putting forward is the best possible representation of myself as I can, right? And a lot of employers are going to be happy to help, right? If they're jumping on these events and they're participating, it's because they really want to hire individuals like yourselves. And so just, those simple asks, they're going to be more than happy to provide that support to you. And then she provided her resume for easy access. Once again, she linked those positions that she was interested in, making it very easy for the company to review them. And most importantly, she thanked them, right? I always say that you kind of, when you are making an ask of an employer, you want it to be kind of a thank you sandwich, right? So you're going to start the interaction, kind of with a thank you. She did that by saying, I had the opportunity to engage with you at this event. Your insights and expertise, they made a lasting impression on me. Then she gives her ask in the middle, right? And then at the bottom, she's thanking them again, right? Thank you for your time. Thank you for considering my request. I look forward to hearing from you. She's not just jumping right in and demanding support, right? We're all busy, and so we want to be polite, we want to be humble, and we want to be respectful and thankful as we make these requests of employers. Katie, anything you want to add on there?
I think you covered it all. It's
Okay.
other than the simple make sure you follow up. That is the basis of it. Following up, keep top of mind of these employers. Remember, help them remember who you are. But that language in that email was just fantastic. So thank you.
Perfect. So as we come to the end of our presentation, we also want you to be exposed to what our employers receive after the event. So while we are encouraging you to stay engaged and follow up, we are making the same ask of the employers who attend. And if you registered, they're going to receive your registration information and a copy of your resume if you uploaded it, just like you're getting their information in advance. So once again, this is going to reinforce the importance of editing your registration if you didn't originally provide this document. Like I said, go back into that email confirmation. At the bottom, it's going to say modify registration, and you can do that there. And be prepared for them to engage. Check your email and your phone. And with that being said, if your voicemail box is full or if your voicemail box is not set up, make sure that you take care of both of those issues. Um, Companies want to be able to leave you a message, right? So, and then making sure you're responsive. If you wait 2 weeks to respond, it shows a lack of attention to detail and timeliness. And by this point, the employer has likely moved on from you. So, being prepared, checking your email, having your voicemail set up, having your voicemail box cleaned out, if at all possible, and then being timely in your responses. So, with that being said, I know we've got a few minutes left and we've had some questions that have been asked during the session, so that's been wonderful, but we're going to move into the Q&A. So, I did see one coming in. So I see it came in that we're going to have asking about a copy of the recording. Katie, you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So we will be sending out an event recap email, hopefully soon, tomorrow, maybe. We will be sending it out. It is end of day here shortly. So we'll be hopefully getting that out to you all soon, before Friday. Um, but yeah, so hopefully you'll get that. But we will follow up. Definitely connect with us on LinkedIn as well if you have additional questions.
Absolutely. Any other questions you all have?
I do have one. It came to me when you were just talking about be responsive. You said don't wait 2 weeks. What is an appropriate time frame if you get an email from an employer? How quickly should you respond?
My recommendation is usually not to wait more than 72 hours. I think is a good practice. I think they'll understand life is busy, things happen. We recommend checking our email every day, but at least send them some form of response within 72 hours, right? And it could even be, if you're looking to schedule time with them, but you don't know when you'll be able to do that, it could just be acknowledging their email. Thank you for so much for reaching out. My schedule's a little chaotic over the next week or so, but I would love to re-engage with you around this time frame, right? So you can kind of push your timing down the line, but it's important to just make that touch base. It's kind of like when you apply for a job, right? You want to hear back in a timely manner. If they tell you you should hear something in 5 to 7 days and you don't hear something in 5 to 7 days, you're going to follow up, right? So we just want to make sure we're timely in our responses too.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? If you do, drop it in the chat. We got a few minutes, or simply raise your hand. We'd be happy to take a live question as well.
You might
But
even be able to pay me to sing, but maybe not. I don't know that my Zoom singing voice sounds as good as my in-person singing voice. That one's probably bad too, but
I do have a question in the chat when it comes to our more seasoned folks. I would say these companies are looking for talent. It does not matter the age that you are. First of all, it is illegal to discriminate based off of age, but these folks are looking for talent. Our industry needs skilled workers. We need folks. There are so many open positions out there. I would not let that worry you. Still go on to this event, ask those questions. They still exist. Those positions are out there. So don't let that
absolutely.
scare you.
And I think we've moved into a culture uh, where generationally too, where we know people are working to a much older age. And so I think companies are a little bit more prepared for that. And, we love our seasoned employees. They bring a wealth of experience and knowledge to the workplace. So absolutely.
Definitely. Well, let's see here. Um, have employers who attended these job fairs offered 100% remote work positions in the past? Rachel, you want to tackle that? You want me to handle it?
I'll touch on it, and then Katie, if you want to add in, I will say yes, employers do have 100% remote work positions open. I would say that most employers are moving away from that. We saw a huge growth in that during the COVID era, obviously because of safety concerns, people were sent home. But I think it's also important to understand that the industry in which we operate, right? So manufacturing and supply chain, a lot of the times it requires, you to be on site, for safety roles, even for logistics roles. So I would say yes, they exist. They are probably more far and few between. Um, the common is going to be more in person, maybe even some hybrid types of roles.
I agree, and that's what we've heard from a lot of our employers, not just the ones at the career fair, but industry wide. A lot of our employers do say that the jobs are on site. You can't make something if you're not present. It's just the way manufacturing works. However, when you look at manufacturing in different functional areas, right, you've got the
Yep.
shop floor, you've got the operations, the QC, the maintenance team, you've got the logisticians in the warehouse, you've got the people on site, but then there's also a functional area that's related to business functions. So the accounting, the sales, the marketing, the HR, those positions exist at our company. Someone's got to do them at a manufacturer.
Right.
A lot of times those positions are tied to like a headquarters. So that might be at a specific location, or they might have remote work for those type of business functional type jobs. So still ask about them. Just don't be surprised if they're like, well, you can't be a remote operator. It's just the way our industry works. So hopefully that answered
Absolutely.
the question. Well, I know we are at time or just at our time. We went over a lot of information, guys, what to do and all the great things to do ahead of time to set yourself up for success before the event. We still have time. It's Wednesday. You've got tonight and all day tomorrow and Friday morning to do your research. The more you prepare for the events, the more fruitful your experience is going to be. So we can't stress that enough. Prepare yourself, prepare your documents, do your research. And then when you get there on Friday, come caffeinated and ready to roll. You're going to be talking, you're going to be networking, you're going to be schmoozing. If it's uncomfortable for you if you're not extroverted, right? These events can be a little uncomfortable. Use this time to set up to come outside your comfort zone and ask. You know what I mean? This is what we're here for. Ask those questions, talk with them, all of it. So do the things the next couple of days, show up caffeinated, ready to roll on Friday, take a deep breath after the event, and then ready to rock and roll and go into all the post-event reminders that we talked about and engaging with them after the event as well to continue that conversation moving forward. Networking is life. When it comes to finding a job, we can tell you till we're blue in the face, it is all about networking. We're not lying to you, right? You don't want to be a piece of paper that just goes through a system for an application and they never have heard your name before. You're more likely to find a job and be selected if you've networked and talked with a company along the way. So those are my last reminders for today. Rachel, anything to wrap us up before we let these folks go?
Have a bottle of water handy.
Yes, because you're going to be talking. All right, everyone. We are at time. Thank you for joining us here today. We've loved having you. Hopefully, you have walked away with some tips and tricks on how to be successful in an employer engagement event, specifically our event for Friday. If you have not registered, please, please, please go on and register today so that you have the Zoom link ready to roll on Friday. But we will see you there. Y'all have a great day. See you Friday.